Okay, I mentioned earlier the Financial Times. I found this fascinating. Camilla Hall in New York writing for today's Financial Times. This is on the front page. Bankers warn over rising U.S. business lending. Now, you would think that business lending would be a good thing because it would mean that businesses are growing, right? Hey, there's a little factory in South Carolina that's making socks, and they need to, there's so much demand for their stockings that they're adding, another machine and 3 new employees, and they just needed to get a little bridge loan till they ramp up that production to pay off the loan. And this is how businesses grow, using debt. So you would think that business lending would be increases in business lending would be a good thing. Not so much. And this goes to the financialization of our economy, how our economy has gotten stupid, and why that's dangerous for all of us. Camilla Hall writes for the Financial Times today you can read this at ft.com. U.S. lending to businesses is reaching record levels, but banks are privately warning. This is why I love the Financial Times. And no, they don't pay me anything to say this. In fact, I pay them for a subscription. But you get to read rich people talking to rich people. It used to be that way was the Wall Street Journal. I used to talk, those of you who've been listening to this program for the last 10 years, the first 5-6 years of our program, I used to quote the Wall Street Journal all the time. They were the ones who pointed out that Dollar Bill McGuire had made over $1.7 billion as the CEO of United Healthcare. But then they got sold. The Blanchard family, I think was the name of it, or Bancroft family, whatever it was. It started with a B. They sold the Wall Street Journal to Rupert Murdoch, and since then it's basically just been Fox News. Anyhow, U.S. lending to businesses is reaching record levels, but banks are privately warning that the activity should not be seen as evidence of an economic recovery. Much of the corporate lending, Camilla Hall says, remember I told you want corporate lending because you want that sock factory to be buying a new machine and hiring 3 new guys? Not so much here. Much of that corporate lending is going to fund payouts to shareholders, finance acquisitions, and fuel the domestic energy boom, bankers say, rather than to support companies' organic growth. And then she quotes a senior banking executive at one of the large U.S. banks who wanted to speak anonymously. He said, loan growth doesn't seem to be driven by the underpinning of an economic recovery in terms of new warehouses and capital expenditure. You don't see the foundation of the real strong demand. And then she points out this has risen to $1.7 trillion private lending to companies in America. That's $1,700 billion from a post-crisis trough of $1.2 trillion nearly 4 years ago. Top 25 commercial banks by assets. Commercial and investment lending grew by 10.5% just in the quarter to June 25th from the previous quarter. When you see a 10% increase in lending in a quarter, 40% a year, a 40% annualized rate, we are in a bubble. And the Financial Times, I believe it was, in fact, had an article, I think it was Friday. I think it was the 4th of July. It was either the Financial Times or the New York Times. The article had a headline to the effect of prices are super high in all asset classes. They were looking at everything from art to the stock market and saying all this stuff is overvalued relative to what it should be worth. In other words, we're in another friggin' bubble, just like in 2007 and 2008. Just like in 1999. Just like in 1993. Just like in 1986, 87. Ever since Reagan dropped the top tax rate, we have gone from having a relatively stable economy from 1935 until 1983. Reagan dropped the top tax rate, and now we're in a bubble and bust economy. It's that simple.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 866-987-THOM.
The exact same thing that happened when Warren Harding in 1921 dropped the top rate from 91% down to 25%. The bubble up right up to 1929, then it popped.